Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a fantastic, exciting, super duper packed episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show. My name is Jordan with a silent PH in the middle, and I'm joined always by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucian, over at Sir Lucian Gaming. Say hello, sir.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a fantastic show. I can't believe all the cool stuff that's going on right now, Dungeons & Dragons wise.
Yes.
As we sit here at the end of June, as D&D Live is happening.
D&D Live is happening. It's very exciting. They have announced a bunch of stuff. They've been playing a lot of games. I know that you got to play a game, Lucian. Yeah. There's just new products coming out. Not necessarily everything we wanted to hear, but there's still one more day. And rumor is that there might be an announcement
something
at 4
at the
o'clock.
End?
Yeah. But unfortunately, we won't be able to talk about it for 2 weeks because we will not have a show next week. I haven't told you this yet, Lucian.
Here we go. Maybe we will.
Next weekend, there's going to be the D&D block party. So a bunch of content creators have gotten together. Ted from Road Immersion, Conowitch from Venture Maidens, who also helped write. She was a co-author on Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden. Very cool lady. She's organizing a D&D block party. They have a whole bunch of really cool stuff they're going to give away every hour. And it's going to be on Twitch, I think on the Venture Maidens Twitch, but I'll rehost a bunch of it because it's going to be fun. They're going to do a D&D lore panel that I'm going to be on. And unfortunately, it is at the exact same time as our show. So I will be streaming. I will be on Twitch, but I will be on the Venture Maidens. If you want to follow me at twitch.tv/Jordan with a PH in the middle, I will rehost it and you guys can find me and know where I'm at. But that's what's going to happen next week. So we're going to do a cool lore panel. AJ Pickett from the Mighty Glue Stick is going to be there. And Mr. Rex, who does a lot of really good lore videos. He's also going to be on that panel. And I guess people can just ask us questions and see how unknowledgeable I really am. So it's
right. I was going to say, how many notes are you going to have next to your desk? Because that's a lot of stuff to remember.
Lots of PDFs open, I guess. Lucian, happy birthday.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, everybody wish Lucian a happy birthday. He's 29 years old, going strong, really enjoying life. It's great.
Later half of 40s, but definitely not in the 50s yet. So that's really good. I'm happy about that.
Very nice. And exciting news here. We hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I don't know what happened. We've been at 960 subscribers for months. And I've tried to push it. I'm like, we're so close, guys. And then I just gave up. And then I think it was yesterday, I was looking at the Saturday Morning D&D Show to create the I was looking at the YouTube channel to create the video placeholder for our live stream that we do on Saturdays here. And I'm like, we're at 998. I'm like, what happened? Where did these subscribers come from? So we put out an SOS and a bunch of people subscribed. Now we're like 1.01K, which is awesome. So it's just cool. Like, I'm really excited. We're at 1,000 subscribers. And I know a lot of you guys listen to this as the podcast on Anchor. So, but anyway, we are very thankful that you are here. And that's great. So really excited.
It's a good milestone for us. That was something we worked on now for quite a while with the show, so it's cool that we're making inroads everywhere on Twitch and on YouTube and like I said, on podcast, and we'll just keep moving forward.
Yeah, it's really great. So thank you for subscribing. And we, whether you catch the show later or live, it's all the same, but we really thank you and value you. But what everybody wants to talk about is, of course, D&D Live and the announcements. And we hinted back this 2 weeks ago that there was a leak that it was going to be Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden, and that leak was correct, but we now have some further information about that. The game is going to be a spooky frozen isolation game, a la The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, and it's supposedly broken into sections to be played kind of like Ghosts of Saltmarsh. So I am assuming that you can, I just want to run this little dungeon, or I want to do this. And so I feel like 10 Towns, which is there's 10 different towns in Icewind Dale, and they're kind of like a confederation of towns that work together because it's mutually beneficial for all of them. You're going to be stationed in one or more of those, I think, and then have to go out into the wild and then come back. So it's kind of like a West Marches game, is what I'm guessing. We don't know yet, obviously. Levels 1 to 12, released September 15th. What are your thoughts on this? Are you excited for this? Will you run this?
I think it's great. I'm hoping that they can nail, because the thing that I heard Chris Perkins say is the thing that I always thought as a dungeon master, me and you have talked about many times, is the idea that giving the players more than one enemy. So you have an enemy, which is what's going on in the storyline and the protagonists and the antagonists and all the stuff that's going on. But being able to introduce environment as an enemy to the party is such a cool thing, right? But how do you get those mechanics to work? Can you get them? Do your players feel like those mechanics are really adding that stress level to what's going on? Are they feeling the crunch? Are they feeling the fear and the worriness? Are we going to make it, or what's going on? We have low visibility. We're running out of supplies. Where things are happening to us left and right, and it's a terrible place out there, and still be fun enough, because that stuff, in real life, it can be terrible for you if you're just stuck out in the wilderness and you can't get out and you're 2 months away from any type of civilization and you're stuck. That's crazy. But it'd be cool to add that environment to the campaign. And we've talked about it in, like, when you put it in your dungeons or you put it in your adventures to add different things. But this sounds like we get to see Wizards of the Coast version of what mechanics do they come up with to support a campaign that's going to have a heavy environment effect on what's going on. And maybe we can use that and adapt it. We could turn it into a desert campaign of our own and just switch how it works a little bit. Maybe we can turn it into a swamp campaign, or we can turn it into an ocean going campaign. But once we see how these mechanics work, we can kind of fine tune them to the different environments that we want to use them in. So I'm excited to see how they pull it off, what they give us, what they bring to the table to help us dungeon masters add something to our game. And I like the idea of it. Icewind Dale, we haven't got to go up there. It's one of the Dales. We don't get to a lot of the Dales. You just did a video on Icewind Dale.
I did, yeah.
Are you excited to go adventure up there after all the research you did and looking into what's going on?
No, and it's popular because of the Crystal Shard book series by R.A. Salvatore. And it's interesting when they want to make it's interesting when they want to make novels in the Forgotten Realms. I think a lot of authors are like, oh, I'm going to make a novel for this world that I didn't come up with. Is there an area that I can have? So they want to be able to define certain things, because I don't want to go, I'm an author and I don't want to have to adhere to what everything Ed Greenwood has done with this area in order for me to write a story there. It can be really difficult. And so you're like, well, I think this is more interesting. So that's kind of what happened with R.A. Salvatore, I think, is he's just like, give me the far, far north, give me the Underdark. These are things that we have not fleshed out. I'm going to do all of that. And so those novels have heavily defined that area. And Drizzt is popular and stuff. So a lot of people think we might be getting stats for Drizzt. I don't really know if we will. But no, I'm excited. I think it's fun. I did not anticipate Icewind Dale. I don't really know what I was anticipating. But I like this survival adventure idea. I think it can be really fun. Things I'm excited about. One, Chris Perkins is the overseeing person on this, and I don't mean to belittle other people's work, but I really like his work. He worked on Tomb of Annihilation, and the books that I'm really excited for were the ones that Chris seemed to be the head honcho on. We also have a load of female writers for this adventure, which is really cool and something that we have not seen in the past. And so I'm excited. And the ladies that were tweeting about hey, I worked on this, I know two of them fairly well, Michaela and Celeste, and they were like, this has been a dream to work on. And apparently they all really bonded together and helped each other out to really flesh out well, I need a puzzle here, or how should I do this? And so the fact that they collaborated on this and became really good friends through it, I think will shine in this adventure. And so that's another reason that I'm really excited to do it, to play it. A couple of weird things there was a Portuguese website that announced they had more information about Icewind Dale, or Rime of the Frost Maiden, in a Portuguese post that got translated to English that wasn't told on the stream. And one of these things is that apparently it's set in 1450 DR, which is, I think we're in 1492 DR right now. So there's like, we're going backwards in time in the Forgotten Realms for reasons unknown. I don't know if it was just kind of like, well, we can't do it here, or maybe that's how they want to break up the realms. But it, like I said, it wasn't announced on the stream, so we don't know for sure. And then another thing is they said that the Goliath is getting ice resistance, and they're going to update that race for this adventure.
Yeah, I could see that, because does anybody have ice resistance right now?
I don't, or cold resistance. I don't think so. You can get it with a feat for tieflings, but yeah, I don't think. So anyway, and that might be like, you know, there are Goliath tribes up there that we don't know about yet or something.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, there is a pretty slick looking dice set coming out. That is a tie-in.
Looks real good.
And the alternate cover by what's his name? I always forget. Hydra 74.
Yeah. Looks really good. Released September 15th.
Hydro 74. Thank you.
Hydro 74. Levels 1 to 12. So another adventure that brings us up through from 1 to 12-ish, which has really been most of the adventures we're getting. Like Tomb of Annihilation was like that. Storm King was right about that area. You might go to 14 or 15. Only that I can recall in my memory did we have Waterdeep only went from 1 to 5, but then you had Mad Mage that went 1 to 20. The only one I can think of that did that, and then you had lots of other ones that were
Mad Mage was 5 to 20, but
5 to 20. Well, they said you could play it from 1 to 20 though.
No, you were supposed to play Waterdeep, and then you go from Waterdeep to Mad Mage.
Yeah, I think they said okay.
That's my. I heard it was 5 to 20, but I don't know. Excuse me. But no, a lot of people were grumbling that it wasn't higher level stuff, and the old argument is that, you know, nobody plays higher level arguments, or nobody plays higher level adventures. So we're going to make lower level adventures. But then the counter argument is like, we only play lower level adventures because you don't write higher level adventures. But they definitely want new players all the time. And if they make a book that really only caters to people that have been playing for a long time, you know, if I see that and it's like, oh, I want to start dungeon mastering. Oh, that's levels 10 to 20. I guess I won't buy that. And so I think they always want a good way to introduce people to Dungeons and Dragons. So.
Well, and I know they look at the numbers that D&D Beyond provide, or when they ask or do polls on what characters you have, and they're looking at the level ranges of characters that people are playing or making and have, you know, sitting in their little character vault. And of course, those are all within those mid ranges. But it's like you said, if you're only ever making adventures that meet those mid ranges, you're probably not going to have a bunch of people with a lot of high level characters because they don't ever get to play them. So I want, you know, sometimes you're almost like creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of, well, people only play this, but only, And really, I would think my logical, not argument, because we're not arguing to talking to Wizards of the Coast, but the point I would want to bring up to them is that as dungeon masters, creating something in low level isn't something we need as much help with, because we kind of got that down. The thing we all don't know how to do very well is how to create a 15 to 20 level adventure, because of all the stuff that's going on and how high level the characters are and how the creatures are being used. So we need guidance. We need help understanding how to write a good adventure at that level and what things to do and
everyone
and think about and how. So if we had more examples of that, then we could ourselves come up with and go, oh, that's right. This is things to keep in mind when you're dealing with such high level characters, or this is things that are still fun for them, even though they have so much power available to them. And then you're talking about just their power, but their magic item count is at the max at that point, you know, and the synergies of the stuff they're doing in the group is just crazy God level like. And so, but we could use some help with that. So that would be the thing I would like to see too. But I understand when your hobby is growing and you're constantly bringing in new people at the rate that we're bringing in new people right now, they're all starting at those lower levels. So to have more content that helps them keep going and give them more stuff to do and bring all these, I understand that too. So it's weird. I mean, I would love to see a higher level adventure, but maybe it wouldn't sell as good. And maybe that's why they don't do it. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I really feel like it is the self-fulfilling prophecy, but that's me.
But I also think it's hard to run a high level, or at least we don't have enough examples to make it.
Well,
not
it
hard
is,
anymore.
Like I would say there are more moving parts in a high level example or a high level adventure, and of course there are, because you have more abilities, you have more things like that. But at the same time, it's not like, I don't know, they do it all the time. You could think of Tomb of Annihilation. They're like, here's this death curse. All resurrection magic doesn't work. You could do that with a high level adventure. Like your adventurers have to figure out why nobody can die,
Well,
or your adventures, like you could stop, like for some reason we can't teleport anywhere. There are ways that you could say, I'm sorry, you can't use these tools, to then make the game a little bit of a mystery.
And the best example of that is Critical Role. I mean, Matt was able to navigate their highest level characters at their campaign 1. And as their campaign 2 moves into the higher level characters, he's been able to maneuver them and keep that interesting and cool and accessible. And we just need more examples like that, I think.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
I was just thinking there's a great, I think I've talked about it before, but there's a great Dungeon Masters Guild adventure that I have run twice now called Scarab of Death. And it's a high level murder mystery. And it's very well thought out, because it allows all of your players to take advantage of the spells they have, but it doesn't, it gives them clues, but they still have to put it together. So there's a murder and they're like, oh, we'll just cast Speak with Dead. Who murdered you? And the guy's like, I don't know. Like, and so you can talk to this corpse, but you don't actually get the information that you want. And then you find somebody and you Zone of Truth them. They're speaking the truth. How can they be speaking the truth? This doesn't make any sense. He was spoken, but he is. And so I like that adventure a lot, because it's for 10 to 12 level, where they get a lot of those fun tools, and the adventure takes that into account. And so it's a well thought out adventure. It's a good example of and that's only level 12. We're talking about like 15 to 20, but like that's a good example of, you can make a fun, cool one shot or an adventure in general, but you have to do that. So there is a comic book tie-in with this, which is kind of exciting. I like comic books.
Zub,
Jim Zub, the man. Well, he's not. Is he working on it?
There's 2 people working on it. I forget the other person because I had not known them before. I only know Jim because I got to meet him at Gen Con last year and have him sign my stuff, which was super cool. But he's definitely involved in it. Yeah.
Because his name's not on here as a writer, but he might be like heading it or something. I'm not really sure. But it's called Spine of the World, which the Spine of the World is right around the same area as Icewind Dale. And it's gonna be about these various characters living in the Spine of the World. So really cool. It's a direct tie-in with this. It's IDW Publishing. You'll be able to pick it up at comic book stores. Comes out late October. But that should be really interesting. I like some of those older Drizzt comics and what's have you are fun. And there's even really old Forgotten Realms comics from the 80s that you can get digitally now that I have, and they're really fun to read. Like, they're just kind of silly, great adventures. If you like the Realms, it's really cool. We're getting more Icons of the Realms miniature packs. If that's something you're interested in, I was talking about miniatures last night because I have a friend that's going to become a new dungeon master, and he was like, "Well, I need minis. Where do you guys go?" And we're like, "Oh, you kind of like you build a collection of minis. You don't just like." There isn't really a starter mini section kind of a thing, and it's kind of expensive. And so he was a little overwhelmed because he's like, "Oh, I had no idea that." Like, I was hoping that there was like, here's your base set of minis, and then you add on from that. And we're like, that doesn't really how it works. Which is why I've used like dice and glass beads and things like that my whole life. Because minis are kind of expensive. But anyway, there are a whole bunch of minis specifically for this campaign, just like they have in the past with other stuff. So.
They had some crazy minis coming out too.
And they did. And so WizKids, they displayed some of their more prominent minis, and they're kind of going, dare I say, overboard with it. Bonkers. Because they showed the ancient white dragon, and you're like, okay, that's big, that's kind of cool, like that's whatever. And then they had this other weird dragon that I've never seen before, $80 miniature, and it's huge. Like, you should, I don't know, we'll find a picture of it, I'll put it in the show notes, but like, it's huge. And then they had another dragon that was still a prototype, so it wasn't like painted and didn't have a base or anything, and that's got to be $100 or $120 mini. and it was like the size of a coffee table. And I think that is ridiculous. Like, nobody needs that, but
ridiculous cool.
It is cool. But I was talking to people about it, and they were just like, how would you feel if you were like, we're fighting this dragon, we're level 14, and then they bring that out. And it made me think of when I was still playing my Warforged fighter. We're level 14 now, and we had like a crazy battle against this like angelic entity or whatever. And after the fight, the DM brought out the Eberron airship. Because that's what teleported in, and then we had a battle on that, and now we have this airship, and I lost it. I was like, we have an airship? Like, this is so cool. And so you're right. Like, if you have the money, that $100 or maybe $120, very expensive dragon miniature, if you dropped that on the table, that would be something that your friends will remember for the rest of their lives. Like, that's kind of cool. So,
and it was, I mean, some of the whiz kids, some of the older stuff that they were doing pre-painted minis, their molds and the things they were doing were good enough, but I wouldn't say they were high quality mold miniatures. But every single year they've been getting better and better and better. And every set they release has gotten more impressive and more impressive. And the stuff they were showing on the stream was highly detailed and looked like beautiful molds that they were using. And I was like, my God, this is crazy.
Nope, they're figuring it out,
really cool stuff.
And I wonder if it's just newer technology too, because specifically Hero Forge, that they are an upcoming sponsor of Jordan videos, so they sent me some minis and stuff. Their color minis look great, and they're learning, like, we can 3D print this with color and stuff.
Yeah,
and it's
the explosiveness of 3D printers,
really crazy. Sure. So yeah, we're getting some cool stuff. Beetle and Grimm's has a platinum edition of this game for $500. Those always are very tempting. And if you have like a DM and 5 other players, you all chip in, you could get that and have a great experience. I have some patrons that have done that, and they love it. And it's just kind of like, no, we're investing like $60 each for years of fun. And then it's fun to have the props, it's fun to have the maps and things like that. So I can get behind that, but like, just for Jordan to go out and buy, I can't.
Every one of them that comes out once a year.
So yeah, like, I don't know, Rime of the Frost Maiden. Frost Maiden refers to Aril, who is a frost deity that is also maybe a primordial or something else. So she's not a traditional deity, and apparently the snowy owlbear creature on the cover is an aspect of her that is like walking around the tundras of Icewind Dale.
And the thing I liked this a lot was that they make the distinction of, there are the Forgotten Realm gods, which are more of the, you don't necessarily meet them kind of gods. But this world also has gods that walk around, and maybe you think of them as demigods or lesser gods or whatever phrase you put on them. But there are these things that walk this world, and I think that is a cool thing to allow dungeon masters to remember. They're not stuck with the pantheon of Forgotten Realms. If they want to introduce something really cool, like maybe a Raven Queen style thing that's in their adventure world, or like this Frost Maiden or this. So if you have this cool idea of this other deity you want to bring into your world, this is a great example of how you can do that, because it's still just as powerful. It's still able to do it. And I think it looks really cool. The artwork on it is mind-blowingly cool. I love the art. I want to make a character that worships this Frost Maiden. I don't know anything about her yet.
No, it's really cool. Like, I have a video on Aril. You should go check it out. But she is a really cruel goddess who, when she does have worshipers, she demands almost too much from them. Nice. And to the point of where they will accidentally kill themselves in the cold. Like, I think one of the rituals is like douse yourself in water and then run half naked from pole to pole during the winter and see how far you get before you freeze to death or get frostbite or something. And that's a way of like appeasing Aril. And so she's an evil goddess. Really interesting. So I mean, I don't know, we're getting, man, I really want some of these minis too. So like, I might have to start investing in
Ted
a
is
brick
always,
a season or something to build.
Yeah, always opening a bunch of those, and he's got a big old collection that he sits by, and it's amazing. You just have to have a lot of room if you're going to collect that kind of stuff. Like, I got 4 or 5 boxes that were sent to me from Wizards of the Coast, when I did the playtest of their adventure, and they sent me a bunch of them. And I just don't even have anywhere to start displaying. My shelves are getting full, and I've got to have like a whole wall dedicated to miniatures.
Another announcement is they're making a cookbook. This kind of came out of left field for me. What did you think about this? Like,
and it was part of the live show. They had like 3 people cooking recipes that were coming out of it, like knucklehead trout, and then there was, you know, some other, and like a
elven
cocktail
bread
thing, and then some bread. So it was interesting. I think it's one of the, this is more on the line, along the lines of marketing their product in various other areas, not just the tabletop game area. So they bring in a cookbook, or they do something. I also felt like it would be something that'd be cool if it was tied into a charity of some sort, which in this case, Red Nose, we're doing this weekend.
Yeah.
But even if it would be cool too, if that had been tied to an actual charity, that when you bought the book, maybe there is. I didn't see them say anything like that, but I thought that would be a cool opportunity. But, you know, we get lunch boxes with D&D on it. We get, you know, TV trays with D&D on it. We get t-shirts with D&D on it. So I feel like this is kind of that same thing where they kind of branch out amongst their merchandising to put a lot of different stuff out there.
It felt really weird to me because it is just a cookbook. It's going to have cool art. It's going to have themed text, but it's a cookbook. And I was talking about it with my friend Lex, and Lex Mandrake, he wrote The Joy of Monster Cooking, and it's on the DMsGuild, and you should check it out. And that is an in-world book of how to cook monsters. But it has real recipes, but then those real recipes are a reflection of how do I actually cook, I don't know, like owlbear meat or something like that. I mean, owlbears are too cute to eat, but you know what I mean.
Right.
And so I thought that was clever. And then this one didn't really go that far. It was kind of like, well, we're going to make elven bread. I don't know. So I could be wrong. It might be really cool. It comes out at the end of October again. But this is one where like they put their efforts into certain things. And I'm like, but nobody was asking for that. Like, why don't you put your efforts into other, like, we want a expanded campaign guide for the realms. We want a lot of this. Oh, here's a cookbook. I don't know. So I do not know if I will be getting this, but
I feel like it too. It ties into, and it's probably a small group. I don't think it's an enormous group, but there's definitely a small group of people that are probably doing themed parties. So when they play their games, they're showing up in costume. When they play their games, it'd be fun for them to do, have everybody come over and they cook some of the recipes out of there that while they're playing their game, and keep it more into that themed party kind of avenue going on. And that's kind of what I felt like it was. It would be something where if me and you were going to throw a D&D party, it'd be cool to have a platter of some of the stuff sitting out for, this is what dwarves eat, and this is a common delicacy of elves, or this is a common delicacy of the orcs, or this is a common delicacy of gnomes, or whatever. And just as a themed party thing. So that's the way I was looking at it. But you're right. Sometimes they do reach with their merchandising to things where you think, why are you spending time doing that when really 90% of your audience would like you spending time doing this other thing?
No, and
they'll do it.
I don't know. It's kind of interesting. The Spirit Halloween store tie-in too was kind of like, I was like, I didn't know that. Okay. And so now you have Drist and Cadibri, and the Dungeon Master from the old television show. They have costumes for those, which I don't want, but definitely after Halloween, I'm going to hit up one of those stores and probably buy those 2 swords just to have them.
If you don't dress your son up as the little Dungeon Master when he's the right size, and that's his costume for at least a couple of years till he grows up. Would be good.
You're
missing an opportunity.
Or a halfling, and then I could run around as
basically everybody's going to be a baby Yoda at this point, and you could be the little Dungeon Master from the cartoon. Perfect for a while. So.
And then they had a bunch of games running. You played in one, correct? What was it like?
Remember when we were looking at the website and they're saying, hey, we're going to stream these games with people that are actors and cool people, but we were like, not really, that's not what D&D Live was about. It was about bringing the community in. But they were offering games, and they did bring in Dungeon Masters and Adventure League groups to bring in. And the people that ran it for me were the Goodman Game Group, who run games typically at Gen Con, I believe, run lots of adventures and things for people. And they had volunteered, I think, as ways to run this. So you could sign up online right from their website. You probably can still today. There might be a few games left. You could play throughout, starting on like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You could play several sessions, and they were about a 1 hour to 2 hour session. It was an introductory to the Great Norths and some of the dangers you will face. We were traveling from one place to another, and we had to deal with the weather. We had to deal with crossing a crevasse and what that might do, and we ran into a few different encounters and how would we react and work with them and whatever we do. We had a nice combat thing. We had a nice diplomacy thing. We had lots of cool skill check things going on. So it was a nice rounded, hour and a half of fun gameplay with 6 players, that not a lot of getting into our characters, because you don't get your group synergy within just an hour of people who've never met with each other.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
That's why Adventure League in general is a
little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a different play style for sure. And the thing that stood out to me, it was more about winning or moving along as quick as we could and getting things done, and less about, well, let me tell you for 10 minutes about what my bow looks like. Or let me describe to you my relationship with the other halfling in the party at the moment, because that's going to develop over the campaign that's going on. None of that stuff was happening. It was a game. We were playing a game. It was very game-like. Fun. Still had a good time, but definitely a different style of role-playing than others. So keep that in mind if you've never done any Adventure League stuff. This was Adventure League sanctioned. So the character I created in that is a real character I can take to other places. I got an acorn that is a golden acorn that's like a potion of healing as a reward for completing the adventure, which was fun. If you'd done 2 of them, you could level your character up to level 2. I only played 1 of them. And it was just fun. We played on Roll20, and we played with using Google Meet is what they used instead of Zoom.
Yeah, we played around with that, didn't we?
Yeah. So it would be great if you're running your party. Google Meet wouldn't work for if you're running a show on Twitch.
Yeah.
Wouldn't work as well. But it was fun. I was glad I got to do it. And only 2 hours was nice. So you didn't have to get into it. You could have a nice evening, roll some dice, and had some fun. I played a Warlock, Dragonborn Warlock, which was fun. It's funny, as I look through my sheath of all the characters I created for Adventure League, almost all of them have been Dragonborn. And I didn't realize it until I was going through them. I don't know why, but I keep making Dragonborn Warlocks seem to be my Adventure League characters. Whereas I make all kinds of stuff for all the other campaigns I'm in. But for whatever reason, I've made a bunch of Dragonborn Warlocks for Adventure League stuff. So
that's
eventually
fun.
I get to play one higher than level 1.
Yeah, I still have my Adventure League characters. I think we were talking about maybe somebody else, but I want D&D Beyond to have an Adventure League setting, because there are so many specific rules for Adventure League that I forget, that it would be nice to be if I convert this character to an Adventure League character, all of a sudden, Jordan, you can't have all of this stuff and stuff. But we'll see.
Well, even last week, didn't you get to play games last week because you were doing an online convention last week, weren't you? Which is why we didn't have the show.
No. Well, sorry, everybody. So Jordan, real life news. We're selling our house, and we're going to move. I'm staying in the town that I am in, but we're moving to a bigger house because we figured my son would eventually want a room of his own. So we went house hunting. We found one. So last week was DCC Day, Dungeon Crawl Classics Day.
I was thinking it was a convention.
And it correlated with a bunch of people coming over for an open house to hopefully buy our house, which it did sell. So yay. But that's why we couldn't have the show. And then also I ended up going to the game store, which I'm a little sad. My game store had all of the material, but they weren't participating. So I was able to buy the cool stuff that I wanted to get that was exclusive for the day, but nobody was there talking about Dungeon Crawl Classics. Nobody was playing. But I did talk to the owner, or the guy behind the counter. Well, he's not the owner.
We're still in COVID.
And he said, well, my town is all open up. There were the reason they didn't have DCC Days is because there was already a scheduled Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. And I'm like,
Yu-Gi-Oh is popular.
I was like, you are a game store. I understand. Yu-Gi-Oh makes money. DCC probably does not. But I did talk to them, and I said, hey, I'm a big fan of Dungeon Crawl Classics. I'd like to get in on this. I will run games for you. And they said, oh, well, if you're willing to run games for us, then email this person and we'll schedule something in the future. Maybe we can like push out DCC days, and because we have all the stuff, you know, we're not doing it today because of Yu-Gi-Oh. And I'm like, okay. But anyway, that's that. So that's why we didn't have a show last week. So
right.
But yeah, you played that session. That's really cool.
Had fun.
Other new stuff, Stranger Things comic. I know you're a big Stranger Things fan, Mr. Lucian.
Love it. And what they were
cool.
talking about was really cool, because they were talking about, it's a comic that ties in and talks about not only their adventures that they were playing, but them outside of the game. But it's a lot about what their characters and what their adventures were. So we get to see those two things happening. And I really like the idea of finding out what adventures they were going on and what types of characters they were building and how they played them and stuff. And I'm a huge Stranger Things fan at this point. So anything they put out, I'm on board with.
Now, is this their like characters that they are
played in the show? Yeah.
No, not the show, but like the show characters, D&D characters. Is it like the adventures of those D&D characters?
Yes.
Okay. So this could be really fun. Yeah.
Yep, the characters that they played in their basement. Because that's what they said. The comic book was going to cover where the show would only show you the very end of a session, or maybe just the beginning of a session, but you didn't get much more of the D&D part in the Stranger Things show as it went on and did the rest of the story. But the comic books are going to cover the D&D sessions they were having, you know, so that I was like, oh, this is going to be so cool. And I love it. So it looked really good, and I'm definitely interested. I'm definitely ready to buy it when it comes out. So.
That's awesome. Something that we didn't get to cover last week because we didn't have a show was Legends of Runeterra. So D&D Beyond partnered with League of Legends. And League of Legends has a card game coming out called Legends of Runeterra. And they did I don't know where this came from and why they thought this was like something that they should do, because the two just don't mix. I don't know. It was weird. But they made a Legends of Runeterra, Dark Tides of Bilgewater, D&D 5e like supplement. And it's a little adventure. It's like the history and stuff of Bilgewater and how to play in there. And then there were some new subclass options, which were pretty cool. I really liked the
Perfect
rogue.
for a book.
Yeah, I really liked the rogue. It was really cool. Yeah. And then magic items and things
Pirate
like that.
Themed.
And it was really cool. I thought this was really neat. And they were like, hey, it's free. This is a promotional thing. It's going to be free forever. You just go play and enjoy or whatever. Well, then a week later, they tweeted out and said, hey, this is going to go away on August 10th. And we're like, why did you put all of this work into this only to like take it away? Like, what's going on? And D&D Beyond is being a little hush hush. And they're just like, well, and so there are a couple posts that I thought was kind of interesting is they said, basically, yes, and I'm going to read this verbatim, but he says, yes, circumstances have changed. While we intended for this content to be available indefinitely, upon review, we are not able to do so. We take full responsibility for the miscommunication and apologize for the inconvenience. This is as transparent as we are able to be, which I thought was interesting. So there's a legal something going on with this. And a lot of people were speculating that this was so popular that League of Legends was like, ooh, maybe we shouldn't give this away. Maybe we should like take this stuff back and actually publish a book. Because if people are chomping at the bit for this, like, oh, we could do this. But what the majority of people actually think, I guess, and the more realistic approach is that Magic the Gathering is a direct competitor with Legends of Runeterra. Sure. And being that D&D Beyond has such a healthy relationship with Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, I bet they got him on the phone and said, what were you thinking? Like, you can't advertise our competitor on a site that is called D&D Beyond with Magic the Gathering content. Like, this is not okay. So, kind of weird that this went... I mean, D&D Beyond is a separate company, but like they're so hand in hand that you think that they would be like, hey, we've got this promotional stuff we want to do. But really it just kind of, I don't know. And then a lawyer got upset, and they. So I think that's why it's going away. If you want it, good luck. Figure out a way of getting it, I guess.
Well, and it's also possible that when you work with other companies like that and you're creating contracts, maybe somebody thought it read one way, and the other group said, because they don't know what D&D Beyond does. Maybe they didn't realize that stuff stays up all the time. Maybe they thought it was a limited time thing. And maybe they came back and said, wait a minute, we didn't say you could have this forever.
Yeah.
We just meant you could use this as a campaign thing. And then it would be, the contract says you get it for 60 days or whatever. And then they point that part out to them or whatever. And maybe they didn't. So it could be lots of different things too, where maybe they didn't understand. Maybe the two companies are battling out, because I could see them being a competitor, but does really anybody, if it was Yu-Gi-Oh on D&D Beyond, that's a direct competitor to Magic the Gathering. I don't know so much if a brand new card game that's not even out yet would be necessarily be considered a competitor to Magic the Gathering, the card game.
And specifically, this is Legends of Runeterra is an online card game.
Yeah, and so that's Magic the Arena then. Yeah,
but Magic the Gathering Arena is very, I mean, that's huge right now. And I was just thinking, like, what if Blizzard hired D&D Beyond to make a Hearthstone game? That wouldn't fly. And so I think this is the same thing, where they're just like, no, that's our competitor. We're not going to build up our competitor. We want you to play Magic the Gathering. And it's weird to have Runeterra and Magic the Gathering settings on the same site when they are, basically competitors. So I don't know. You're right. Like, but I think in the grand scheme of things, I don't play Legends of Runeterra. I don't know how popular it is. You're right. I don't even know if it's out. I assume that it was, but maybe it's not.
That was something they were working on, but I didn't know if it was released. Maybe it is.
So, but anyway, that's the rumor. We'll see. So it's kind of sad that it's going away, but you can, Control P print it out as a PDF maybe on your Chrome browser and keep the stuff if you really want to keep the mechanics of it. But it's kind of interesting. So it was cool stuff. Like I said, really liked the rogue, the wild card rogue. Thought that was fun.
Yeah.
Lucian, I'm excited.
I know.
There's a new Eberron book coming out.
Done by the man himself.
Done by the man himself. So, new Eberron book. It is Exploring Eberron is the title. And this is coming out July 2020, specifically on the DMsGuild, but it will be print on demand, so you can get a hardcover version of this. Keith Baker himself is writing it, coordinating it, all of things like that. And so a lot of people, anyway, more Eberron. If you're an Eberron fan, this is great because like more information. I don't know if it's going to be just lore. I don't know exactly what's in the book. I've been reading a couple of his blog posts, but for the most part, I think he wants you to, come check out the book rather than let me tell you what it is.
It's a significant book. Yeah.
And the people online are just like, well, is this canon? Like, can I use this? And that's the problem, right? Is like, this book won't be on D&D Beyond. This book won't be, like, it's a DMsGuild supplement. So it'll have player options, it'll have spells, it'll have magic items, it'll have maps, but like none of that will be incorporated in D&D Beyond because it's not a Wizards of the Coast, like, official published thing. And with Keith Baker, he really likes, or I should say the community really enjoys, talking about canon versus canon, and there's canon with a C and canon with a K, which stands for like Keith Baker canon, because he has his blog and his website where he flushes out the entire world of Eberron, but because that's not printed and sanctioned by Wizards of the Coast, it's not necessarily like true, So this is interesting where you have an author who like lives, eats, and breathes this world. But he is not allowed to officially add things to it because of
he's not
reasons.
A Wizards of the Coast employee. He's his own dude.
Yeah. And he doesn't own that property like Wizards of the Coast owns it, because that was part of the whole thing with Eberron. But Keith has kept this setting alive because he's very passionate about it. So it's kind of interesting. So he did say in a blog post, he's like, this will be canon with a K. But if you enjoy Eberron, if you enjoy my work, like this will be a great supplement for you. And I 100% will pick this up because I love Eberron, and I think that's really cool. And you know, I like having everything nice and tidy in D&D Beyond, but I don't necessarily need that. So
his Phoenix Dawn command sitting right there is he writes some really cool stuff. He plays with mechanics. He plays with worlds and ideas, and he doesn't just think of them on a whim and move on. He's like an in-depth thinker about these things, and he'll put down thousands and thousands of words based on what he thinks these things are. So if you're a person who likes a setting that is set like a Lord of the Rings, we if J.R. Tolkien says it, then it's Lord of the Rings, and I want to do whatever J.R. Tolkien's world is. I'm not about trying to make stuff in, you know, that world. I just want to know all the information coming from J.R. Tolkien. Eberron feels to me like that too. Like you're just willing to sit back and say, Keith, give me all this good stuff you've got going on. I love your world. I don't care about adding anything to it. I'm going to use everything you're doing because everything is all thought out and put together, and I love it. And I just want to play it and know about it. And I feel like that's what Eberron is. It's a very good, I don't have to make anything up because Keith has already thought about it. And it's there for you to use and just you know, run your campaigns and run your adventures in. So I love that he's a author that's willing to keep putting in time and keep fleshing these things out. Because to me, that means he cares about those worlds. Oh, yeah. It wasn't just something that made him some money and he moved on. It wasn't just something that he's done with and he's bored with. He's got a passion behind that. And you've got to respect something like that when you keep building on that. I'm growing to become somebody who wants to run Eberron, whereas we've known throughout this show, I have always said I wouldn't run an Eberron campaign. I wasn't as interested in it. But the passion he keeps putting in it keeps drawing me to it, like saying, give him another chance, Lucian. Just read the stuff. You know, maybe you would love running some adventures in it just because he puts so much into it. So, and I know you love Eberron.
And I didn't care about Eberron until I started researching it, and it is that exact same thing. He just puts a lot of work into it. Some people in chat are actually saying some really good stuff where they're saying basically wasn't Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron a DMsGuild product, and that's in D&D Beyond. And you're right, but that was also Keith working with Wizards of the Coast to make a DMsGuild supplement.
And they decided to release it there instead of making a book.
And this like what Keith is working on now is him independently publishing something to DMsGuild.
Hired his own editor.
Much like I've done or other people have done, where you're like, oh, I wrote something and I put it on there. And then DMsGuild takes, I think, 50% of the profit. So if you sell it for $2, you get $1 and DMsGuild gets $1. So that's the difference. Is I think he was paid by Wizards of the Coast to make this supplement for DMsGuild, and in this case, he's doing it independently and he's going to publish it. So we won't see it on D&D Beyond, but that's okay. It's going to be. I think it's really cool. I'm excited for this. It should be a lot of fun. But yeah, we had a lot to cover today.
And D&D Beyond isn't like the end-all be-all for Dungeons & Dragons, because if you go to Drive-Thru RPG, you go through the DMsGuild, and you want to find cool stuff like witch hunters and different classes and different races and different adventures to play that have nothing to do with D&D Beyond, that place is chock full of cool, you want new spells, you want new abilities, you want new feats, you want new classes, you want new races. You can go to DMsGuild or Drive-Thru RPG and get a plethora of stuff to add to your game to make it the way you want to play it.
No, I've made, specifically if you're interested in the realms, I've made some videos on things that I like from the DMsGuild, such as cursed classes, where you could literally level up as a vampire or a werewolf if that happened to you. Kind of exciting. So you're like, I'm a level 4 wizard and a level 2 vampire. Hey, that's fun. I like that. And there was a whole Faiths of the Forgotten Realms that came out that was really cool. And they gave subclasses for every god. So you had very themed abilities and themed spells if you were going to follow a specific Forgotten Realms god. And you won't find that on the D&D Beyond. But
if you're looking for a great adventure, check out Dragon on the Mount. I hear it's really good. And I played it a couple times. fantastic.
I gotta finish writing my second one.
There's going to be a sequel?
Yeah, there's a follow-up. I got a follow-up coming. I just I'm moving. I had a baby. This channel takes way more time than you would think it would.
Does.
So I'm really working. We got 10 minutes left, Lucian.
Yeah.
And usually we do Bartok Inspiration and then talk about our games. But I'll put it to you. What would you like to talk about? What do you want to?
I love my Bartok Inspiration,
Okay.
so I'm willing to use my time on that, and I can just keep it pretty short.
No, do whatever
the
you
game
want.
itself. But I was thinking about a game or campaign that completely revolves around a long caravan that basically is hiring the players at the very beginning and saying, hey, we're going to all of these stops, and then we come all the way back, and this takes about a year. So you're signing up for a year of time to be, with this group. But the idea is, as a dungeon master, you can put all kinds of little adventures in as they're moving this caravan along. And it doesn't even have to be about the caravan itself, but it could just be about the places they're stopping in. And maybe you stop there and you're there for a week. So once you get there, maybe as a guard, you don't have to do anything because now they're in the town. So it's almost like a week off for you to go and just do whatever you want. But then when they go to travel to wherever they're going next, that's when you're doing your guard duties. And I felt like there were so many little stories you could weave into your campaign with characters who sign up for this, that's going to do this year-long journey that's based around this caravan and the Caravan Master. And maybe it's like 12 wagons that are slowly moving across. And what I liked, the idea just really started flowing, is that not only you get to see lots of locations, you have this chance to introduce small storyline elements into them. There's a mechanism that forces the characters to move on and leave things behind. And you could give them these options, like we've talked about this other times, where they have more options than they can actually solve. Mm-hmm. So they have to pick. You're like, here's your 3 things. Here's the 3 problems going on. You're only here a week. You might be able to solve one of them. That's it. The rest just happen and leave. And then when you come back, you might get to see what's happened due to the decisions you made when you left, or that group, what they decided to tackle and what they decided not to tackle, and how that affected these places. And those places could change in your campaign based on those decisions. So that adds in a ton of fun for the dungeon master to throw in all that stuff and have lots of stuff to create and do, and a really cool timeline. And it's, in my mind, you could almost, I've read books that are like this. You read novels about the heroic story, and it's them going from one place to another, and there's a mundane thing that's causing it, but the adventure is happening as they go. And I just thought this would be a cool adventure. And it's one that's strong enough that I'm thinking it might be the next adventure world I run, the next campaign I run would be this one, because there was just so many possibilities in it that I thought, oh, this is so cool. Just like when I started thinking about West Marches and all the things it was bringing up as I was thinking about West Marches games, this had that same effect on me of all the things I could do as a dungeon master. It really got me super excited. And that's what a really good idea is. Something that gets you really excited as a dungeon master. So
basically, Carnival Cruise, the game, where you're just like,
yeah.
I mean, what you're talking about is interesting, but it's the same thing as like a boat, like a nautical adventure. Like, oh, we found a random island. Oh, we found here. I don't know what's going on.
But one that the players don't get to choose where it goes, but there's some other entity choosing where it goes.
Oh, okay.
They're not the captains of the boat, or they're not the captains of the train.
The caravan, yeah.
They're with it. They're following along with it. So that's what I liked about it. Yeah.
Have you ever seen, not that this is similar, but like Snowpiercer or something where
exactly.
And you're just on this train. You're like, I don't know.
You could run Snowpiercer as an adventure.
That'd be cool. That's awesome. So I always come up with my my things late at night or early in the morning. Bartok Inspiration. I've been reading a lot of Jack Vance and the Dying Earth series, and I really like it. And they're really interesting. WebDM's latest video, maybe 2 videos ago, they were talking about what inspired original Dungeons and Dragons. And they were talking about This Dying Earth and a couple of other authors that I immediately downloaded and got some of their books, because I'm really intrigued about what was Gary Gygax reading when he was inspired by this to create it. Because another podcast that I was listening to, they were talking about the original stories of D&D, or the original stories that inspired D&D, and how we've gotten off because, you know, these hyper fantasy crazy stories have inspired D&D, and then D&D has kind of inspired like role-playing
fantasy.
Video games.
Yeah.
And then video games kind of as video games evolved based on like leveling systems and stuff from D&D, that 5th edition is kind of a reflection of that as well. And it's not a reflection of those original stories. And we're very much 5th edition D&D has changed a lot from how and some people think that's good and some people think that's bad. Like, we're getting away from the source material. And so I personally, this is just a little off topic, but that's why I'm reading these other things, because I kind of want to get that feel for like, what were these original adventures and what was it, you know? And anyway, so again, reading Jack Vance, who's popular because of Vancian magic. And I found a blog where this guy was talking about the importance of Vancian magic and kind of cool things like that. And he made a table to roll on that creates random Vancian spells. And I like this idea. An old joke in D&D is a magic item that replaces like a letter in a spell. So instead of magic missile or something, it's magic, I can't even think of something, but you know what I mean, where you can change the word of a spell to have
magic
something
whistle.
else. Magic whistle. Yeah, there you go.
Whistle.
And so you instead of magic missile, you now have a magic whistle. And I always thought that was really funny because creative players can come up with like really interesting things. So this table is basically verbs and nouns. And you're supposed to roll on it, but it's kind of fun to think because the verbs are very Vancian magic words like summon, mend, destroy, create, halt, move, conceal. And so you combine that with, I want to mend armor is a noun, or I want to conceal undead, or I want to summon air. And I like that. And so what if... when you're trying to create spells for D&D 5th edition, because I am playing Joshe Manu, the Conjuration Wizard in my Wildmount game, and I like the idea of creating spells, and I've created one spell so far, and I'm working with my DM to kind of create some more, because I like the idea of having Joshe's summon air, you know, or Joshe's mend time spell. And what does that look like? And how do you kind of configure that?
I like it.
So it's a fun website. I'll put it in the show notes and I'll put it in the live stream right now. Sorry. I keep forgetting to put things there, but yeah, very, very OSR, very fun. And it's just kind of a cool idea, to generate a spell, use magic to generate an effect that you didn't think was possible. And whether that is, and just using a simple sentence, how can you create magic? And then how do you describe that? You work out something with your DM, such as, I want to move gravity. What does that really mean? Are you intensifying it? Are you creating patches of zero gravity? Are you doing this? I want to summon skin. I don't know. It's just weird things like that. So magic is fun, and the Vancian magic in the Dying Earth that I'm really enjoying is kind of interesting. And I will end with this, something I didn't know about original D&D. The reason thieves always have that, like, can use magical weapons or abilities or read scrolls or something. In earlier versions of D&D, it was always like, wizards can do this, and then thieves can, like, half do it. That is in there because of Lankmar. And Lankmar is a world setting that I think 3.5 and 2nd edition D&D had a Lankmar setting that you could play in. But there are a series of books about two characters called Fafard and the Grey Mouser.
Yeah.
And the Grey Mouser is a thief, but he also has some magical abilities. And that, again, is one of the book series that inspired Gary Gygax to make D&D. So, of course... wizards have access to spells and scrolls, but thieves are also tricky like that. And so they have access, and they can read magic, and they know magic, because the Grey Mouser kind of knew a little bit of magic. Really interesting. Really good episode of WebDM, too. So I always like those guys. They do really good stuff.
Awesome.
So, yeah. So Vancian Freeform Magic. I think that would be a good way to... I don't think it's probably not Bartok Inspiration because I'm not inspiring a whole campaign like this, but I don't care. It's interesting. And we talked about it and it's inspiring. We'll talk about our games not next week, 2 weeks from now. We'll have a lot to talk about. We'll do a big game thing. And we'll talk about all the games that we're playing, but lots of fun stuff.
Lots of games.
How Lucian leveled up with his Bugbear Ranger and is doing all of the damage with his strong Gloomstalker reach arms.
Really coolest Bugbear Gloomstalker. And your Rod of 7 parts, which I'm assuming they must have more parts by now, because if they're ever going to get 7 parts, you better get them moving.
They've got 3, and they're gonna work on getting the rest of them. They're in the desert right now. It's really exciting. You should check that out. Wednesdays 8:30, or check out my Patreon for stuff. That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for liking and subscribing, because we're at 1,000. If you like this show and listen to it via podcast, please give us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast, because that helps numbers go up and people hear the show, and we like the show, and we hope you like the show. And if you do, leave a good review. We are going to be off next week, but do check out the D&D block party all over Twitch. If you follow me on Twitter, I will be tweeting about it, and so you can get notifications there. Other than that, because it is on Twitch, this channel on YouTube probably won't be doing anything. But again, if you follow me on twitch.tv/Jordan with a PH in the middle, I will be rehosting all sorts of cool stuff.
I'll rehost just that way.
Yeah, and I bet Lucian will as well. So if you're not streaming or doing something else. But it's going to be a lot of fun. AJ Pickett's a really cool guy. I talk with him all the time. He's just a really good person. Mr. X I've never met, but I assume is also fun. He likes D&D. I like D&D. We have so much in common. It should be a lot of fun. That's it, I think.
That's the show.
Leave us some notes and comments if you're going to pick up Rime of the Frost Maiden. I'm curious. If I'm a sucker for a Chris Perkins adventure, so I'm probably going to pick this up, but we'll see if I run it, but I'm definitely going to pick it up. So thank you guys so much. Lucian, anything else before we go?
Nope, that's it. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. Leave those comments. Tell us about your Bartok inspirations down there too, because we'd love to hear all your ideas for running campaigns or cool things that inspired you to play your games.
Yeah, 100%. We will see you in 2 weeks with another episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show. Goodbye.
Bye.